right, good evening. The time being 7 p.m., all members of the planning board being present, I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda, actually, you know what, I'm going to do something before I start the first item. If anyone is here for agenda item D, which is 485 Main Street, agenda item E, which is 913 East Street, or agenda item F, which is 2070 Main Street. All three of those have been requested by the applicant to be continued, so nothing will be discussed on any of those three this evening. So if you're here for that, you can leave. You will not miss anything. All right, so returning to the agenda. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes from June 2nd, 2025 and June 16th, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out a small Scribner's error. On page 2, paragraph E, it says they reached out to the KFC, as in Kentucky Fried Chicken, but we all know it meant K of C. So just a small.
Steve, nothing here for June 16th.
You just have the
minutes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, the June 16th meetings were intended to be completed today, and they weren't, so they'll be
Okay,
on the
that's
next
fine.
meeting.
So we'll just do June 2nd then.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the June 2nd meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on June 2nd, 2025.
All right, a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports and administrative actions. Any committee reports any of the members wish to make at this time? Seeing none, moving on to...
That would steal the thunder of our NEMCOG attendees tonight, so I will let them do the presentation.
All right. Moving on to agenda item B2, town planners report. Ms. Lotto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as of the writing of this report, there were a few extra applications that were submitted. So at our next meeting, we are anticipating 2 to 3 family suite special permit applications in addition to any continued hearings from this meeting. Another note is a reminder that Chess Wizards is having summer programming at the library again. So folks who are interested in that can visit chesswizards.com and search Tewksbury programming. They are going to have a week-long camp August 11th to the 15th. Another note that the Tewksbury Community Market is now on every Thursday through October 2nd after a couple of holidays, 4 to 7 p.m. down on Livingston Street. This week's market features 30-plus vendors, and I encourage folks who are interested to visit tewksburymarket.com. I'm going to take a little bit of NIMCOG's thunder, but this is not the topic they're here to discuss this evening. A reminder that the Bike and Pedestrian Plan, the Greater Lowell Bike and Pedestrian Plan, is a collaborative effort between NIMCOG and the Northern Middlesex Metropolitan Planning Organization, the project's consultants, and the project's advisory committee to improve walking and biking infrastructure in the region. And for more information, I encourage people to visit nimcog.org/GL Bike Ped Plan. Another note that Smith Cannabis had its grand opening a couple weeks back at 1695 Shawsheen Street, and we'd like to welcome them to the business community. And 2 other items that were not on your written report that I'll just mention quickly here. On Saturday, the Conservation Commission, along with staff, held a successful pull party to pull invasive species from Long Pond. We had almost 20 volunteers and staff participate over the 3 hours, and we filled some of those green barrels that you may have seen if you drove by there. Water chestnut's an incredibly invasive species, and that is being sent down to Rhode Island to a biodigester to be incinerated because it is that invasive. So anybody looking for more information about the next time we'll be doing that, or just that effort in general, is welcome to contact the office. And finally, I and the building commissioner will be hosting a residential information session on accessory dwelling units at August 12th at the library. It'll be a brief overview of the state law, the regulations, and how it's being implemented here in town. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving.
I have a question if I could to Alex.
Please.
Alex, I see that pond on Long Pond being used a lot these days. That's just great. Do you know if there are any issues with the fish down there or the water?
No, in fact, we had one of the volunteers on Saturday morning say that he is somebody that fishes every single day at Long Pond, semi-retired, likes to go fishing at 4:30 in the morning, which, bless him, not my activity. And he said he caught a 7-pound bass. So he was singing its praises as the best pond that he goes to, and he goes to other communities, and this is his favorite place to fish.
Oh, good. I was wondering about if anybody's eating those things. I was curious because I don't think so. I hope not. So I didn't know if we should be putting something down there that maybe it's not edible or something, because people fish there all the time.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what's happening.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, moving on to agenda item B3, master plan update discussion with NIMCOG.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Raid. I'm the Executive Director of NIMCOG, Northern Middlesex Council of Governments.
And I'm Kelly Leinema. I'm Deputy Director at NIMCOG.
All right.
And Alex, do you want us to just jump right in?
Yeah, I guess I'll preface this by saying the town's last master plan update was completed in 2016, and a general rule of thumb is to keep those updated about every 10 years to make sure that it still accurately reflects what the community wants to see for all facets of building, recreation, housing, all sorts of things. So we applied, and we being through the staff, we applied for DLTA funding, which NIMCOG is our regional planning agency, and they very often help us with plan updates like this, that they are helping us map out what we should be cognizant of as we map out our approach to updating the next master plan, which would be due on or around next year in 2026. And I'll hand it back to Jenny and Kelly.
All right, excellent. So we've provided you with a memo, which basically outlines sort of a background and approach to developing a new community master plan, and with some sort of points for potential discussion, either amongst yourselves another time, or if there's anything you want us to answer this evening, we can do that as well. We know you have a hard stop at a certain time for hearings, though. So just with that in mind, I think if you are, how many of you, I guess maybe just by show of hands on the board, participated in your the current master plan that you have right now? Okay. So a couple of you, but not everybody. So the master plan is typically your vision and policy setting document. It really is about growth and preservation management. It's a tool that communities use under Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D, which has very specific prescribed elements of a master plan, which are outlined in the memo. They include things like, obviously, your vision statement for the community, who you want to be. Where you're at right now is a big part of it, so you better understand your existing conditions, and then set forth goals and strategies and specific recommendations, typically somewhere between a 10 or 20-year horizon, and a very clear implementation plan of who will do what, when, what resources might be needed in order to implement something. And the typical sort of the basic elements of any master plan under state law would be a goals and policy statement, a land use plan, a housing element, an economic development element, a natural and cultural resources element, open space and recreation, public services and facilities, transportation and circulation, and then the implementation strategy. Typically, there are other things that communities incorporate into master plans, and those can be anything from deeper community engagement beyond, say, typical or traditional public forums. There might be climate resiliency or sustainability initiatives that you want to incorporate into the plan document. There could be sometimes communities want to better integrate their educational plan or sort of a situation around school buildings and sort of more specifics around that, and incorporate a whole section on education. Public health can be another section that some communities tend to emphasize as well. Master plans tend to answer about 4 questions, and when you're doing it well. Those are that you want to really understand your existing policies, trends, laws, and data, and answer the question, well, who are we as a community today based upon those policies, trends, laws, and data. Who do we want to be in the future? Obvious question to ask, and something that usually gets answered through a visioning process, as well as all of the data, an understanding of the trends, and an understanding also of who Tewksbury is within the greater Lowell or Northern Middlesex region. What do we need to change in order to achieve who we want to be in the future? And then, of course, how do we get there? Who can we help? Who can help us to get there? What resources will we actually use? And who will oversee and report on the progress of the plan itself? And that's kind of a big kind of decision point in terms of the town moving forward is some communities utilize an advisory or a steering committee. That can be a subcommittee of the planning board itself. It could be a completely separate town committee as well, which incorporates various representatives from different town boards or committees, different town departments as well, sometimes community-based organizations, residents, business owners. It could be a broad-based group. And that steering or advisory committee could transform into an implementation committee, or you could create a new implementation committee after the master plan is actually adopted. The adoption of the plan goes through the planning board itself. It doesn't have to go through any other level of community endorsement through town meeting or even select board, but other communities do sometimes request that kind of endorsement and buy-in as a mechanism to understand that there's, a big commitment to engage in not just the master planning process itself, but obviously in the implementation of the plan. In the memo, I've outlined a number of different other master plans that are happening in other communities, some of which are completed, some are in progress. Also included are what other communities in the NIMCOG region have done in terms of master plans. As you can see, there's a wide range. Alex has provided us with an overview of what you've done here in town. So you're not necessarily building off of that plan, you're likely starting brand new. And so as you consider all of the things in this memo, some of the approaches that are outlined in this memo include how we would suggest you move forward and maybe some things that you need to answer. And then, of course, if you need to ask us any questions, that's why we're here this evening. So that could include, as a next step, of course, this discussion is one of those first steps, but sharing this communication and beginning the real sort of robust discussion about a master plan process. And that would be with folks like from other elected officials or town leaders, potentially your finance committee or others who engage in town finances. Determining your local staff or volunteer capacity, which is really critical to understanding what actually the scope of work will be and what kind of potential technical assistance you're going to need from a consultant or multiple consultants potentially. Usually there's a team working together across all of the different disciplines that you see that happen in a master plan process, but understanding what town capacity you have in order to engage in the process is somewhat critical, as well as volunteer, meaning all of you on the planning board as volunteers participating, but also potentially other people in the community who might want to volunteer through this process. And then identifying the potential funding sources. So again, depending upon what level of a master plan you would want to engage in, it could cost anywhere between $150,000 up to $400,000, which is based on recent estimates from other communities that have engaged in master plans. Of course, the formation of a steering or advisory committee, and we've outlined in the memo what that might look like and how you might advertise such an opportunity. And then developing the work plan to better understand exactly what you're going to need, development of the community vision and goals, developing the various plan elements, and then some sort of drafting of the actual plan itself. And then lastly is a better understanding of your existing plans. It would be your existing plans, your policies, and that sort of level of information. And I say that because that's sort of a critical piece to better understand what you're launching from. Where you are today includes what you've already planned for and what you've already set policies for, as well as some of the gaps in terms of what you have yet to do or complete. So for example, NIMCOG is also working with the community on an open space and recreation plan update. We also completed a housing production plan for you recently. And there's other initiatives that you've also been engaged in. So we would want to assess all of that to best understand the way forward. So with all of that said, is there anything else to
Nothing
add?
else to add,
Okay.
just if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them about anything that we've outlined in the memo or anything else that we didn't address that you might have a question about as well.
All right, through the board. Mr. Fuchsia, anything?
I don't have anything right now.
Mr. Champa?
Just obviously, the clock's going to start ticking, then we should probably put this on a agenda in the next month or two and start thinking about how we're going to put this together and who's going to be involved and who we're going to reach out to.
All right, Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick, I see that Lowell, the cost of their zoning was covered by some grants. Is that something that's available to Tewksbury?
That is a good question. There may be some funding opportunities available to the town in the future. We would have to figure out exactly which ones you'd want to access due to the availability of those discretionary grant funds and whether or not they'll actually become available in the next fiscal year. So I think we would have to assess that depending upon when we actually decide to apply for any grant funds. At this moment in time, there are not grant funds available to the town for master planning, but there might be on the specific elements of the plan itself, which is kind of what the city of Lowell engaged in, was a different plan components might be covered by specific grants, but not for the entire plan process.
So there would be some costs to it, and I see another expense could be hiring NEMCOG. Like how does that work?
Right, no, that is a very good question. And I think through a typical, you've already engaged with NIMCOG through the traditional technical assistance request process, so we would be happy to engage further in this process, but we wouldn't typically do a master plan completely independently, so we would likely want to engage other groups to help with different elements of the plan itself, which would mean that it would likely cost more than, well, it would always cost more than the amount that we have available in our technical assistance pool regardless. We only receive about $200,000 a year through our technical assistance program. So again, depending upon the scope of the work program and the different elements of the plan itself where we need to offset the cost, then we could perhaps revisit that
Okay, because I see
question.
that there are other groups out there that Lowell use, Community Opportunities Group, that we used as well.
Yes.
On the last go-around, RKG. Is there any, that estimate you gave, that's a pretty broad area. So is that as close as we can come to a cost estimate?
Yeah, a lot of it really depends on how much engagement the community is willing to do in-house versus how much you're expecting from a consultant. Engagement can add quickly to the cost of a plan. I also think there's an aspect to the scope. So if you are just trying to check off the boxes from the state requirements, you will get a plan that passes with the state, but may not have as much buy-in from the community. So you're trying to strike a balance between how much community support do you want to build in this process to implement the plan versus
So
trying
you
to
could
keep the budget.
conceivably go through this process and end up right where you started, theoretically, right?
Yeah,
If nobody wanted any
exactly.
substantial changes, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Patalia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just generally, how is Tewksbury doing with our process and everything else going on? Our master plan's old now, so we need a new one, but in general, would you say a comment on how Tewksbury is doing with its
I mean, I think the fact that you're engaging in this discussion right now is positive, and it's important for mapping out the future of the town and the future of the community. So I would say that it's in a good position if you're really interested and committed to this process to move forward.
Mm-hmm. I know we're over at 10% for affordable housing, which is a good thing. I don't know if you know, how many communities are over 10%, or would you know that figure? No, right? Answer, or?
Based upon the current version of the subsidized housing inventory, about 80 communities total are at that place right now. But even those communities that are technically over 10%, a lot of them continue to accept 40B comprehensive permit proposals and continue beyond the 10% goal.
I know Tewksbury is very active as far as boards and volunteerism, so, I mean, adding this additional part of it may be a stretch to get more people involved. I mean, we had a zoning committee that lasted for years and years trying to get the zoning updated and so forth. So, I mean, hopefully we'd get some people, volunteer, but, and I mean, I talked to Mr. Duffy, I heard Mr. Duffy comment about the figures as far as getting a new master plan. So, and you mentioned in here that maybe CPC money could be used or Affordable Housing Trust money. Is that
Yes.
pretty regular? People do that all the time?
Typical source of funding comes to come from the community, either through a capital plan, Community Preservation Act funds, or housing trust funds, or even other operating funds. So there's various ways that communities tend to pay for these.
because it's not cheap. You mentioned 150 to 400,000 or whatever it was.
Somewhere between those two
It's a lot
figures.
of money and a lot of time and effort by all people involved, you know, so, so in the past, we had Judy Barrett, I think you must know her, right? From,
Yes.
That helped us with a number of issues in the past. Is she still doing that stuff, do you know?
She still
Yes, okay,
she still
good,
engages
okay, good to
in
know.
master planning.
With that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Not with you guys, though, right?
No, not, I mean, in general, Barrett Planning Group is a consultant who engages in
Okay.
master planning, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, the only thing I'd say is, I mean, this is just me, but I wouldn't be really much in favor of doing much more than checking the boxes with this, because we did this the last time, and it felt like almost immediately, it's out of date. Things change. I mean, planning for 10 years at a time right now is really difficult. And while I don't disagree that we have a lot of boards and all that stuff, you referenced the zoning bylaw, and we've had a few others. We had all these meetings, all this stuff, all this, you know, the folks that wanted to show up, and then every one of those things blows up when it gets to the voting time or whatever it is. You know what I mean? All that work didn't matter because the people who went to vote for it weren't even involved in that. So, I mean, putting all that effort in seems to blow up in our face a lot of times, despite how many people or how much time, money, or whatever is spent, and then we're back at the drawing board again. So I'm, you know, for something that I'm concerned about its being up to date long enough to justify much more than the costs necessary to sort of check the boxes, I'm leery, only because, you know, you drop 200, 300 grand, and then at the end of the day, you know, it's not being looked at, it's not really being used, or it's immediately, oh, stuff changed. You know, the funding that we thought would be the things we'd use for this, they don't exist anymore. Or, you know, and that just seems like a lot of work for something that's meant to last a long time. But in today's environment, there isn't a long time before things drastically change. You know, if you were doing this 5 years ago, and we did it 5 years ago, we'd be sitting here right now, 5 years later, going, oh, God, no, that the money's not there anymore. We can't do that, or whatever. And that's my only concern, is that I wonder if the master plans have the time they take and the effort and how long they're supposed to exist for before you have to change them. I wonder if they're not a little outdated for the speed at which things happen now. You know, so I could see, for me, I could see, you know, if you're spending 150 5 years apart, rather than 300 grand and think it's going to last you 10. You know what I mean? Like, that's my only thing, is that I just, you know, living through the last one, you know, the amount of reference we really make to the master plan, I mean, it's a guideline and that's fine, but it's the bylaws and the, you know, and any change the state makes that comes down, like, that all changes at a much more rapid pace than the master plan's going to. And then you'll have folks who are like, well, you're not sticking to the master plan. Well, of course we're not sticking to the master plan, because life moved on and the master plan didn't. You know what I mean? So that's my only thing, is that, you know, it's a lot of effort sometimes, and I remember, you know, it's the same thing. It went on a long time, and, you know, we ended up with, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you know, it's a lot of it feels like it's collecting dust, waiting for the next time we have to do it, and we're using other things, or we're referencing other things, or we become beholden to other things. And that's my only fear in going too deeply into it. You know, I mean, maybe a city, you know, Lowell, it may just work differently for them because of, the, you know, what they are versus us. I don't know. That's just, or a small town, small, you know, maybe it's different. I don't know, but it just feels to me that it's a little, you know, a little antiquated in the way it works for what we all face changing so rapidly all the time. But, you know, that's just me, so. All right, anybody else? Ms. Lauder, any thoughts?
No, but depending on how the other members feel about your comments, I think at least it would be helpful to put out, you know, a rec for an advisory committee and solicit the other boards and committees and see if we have, what level of interest we have. You know, certainly staff has some capability to do the outreach, at least in-house. You know, we're perfectly capable of that, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm a transportation engineer and I know how to, you know, analyze those kind of figures. So I think that the plan that NIMCOG has laid out, the the roadmap, if you will, is something we can certainly work with. And, as Mr. Champa discussed, we can make it a point to discuss it one of our next couple of meetings. It's not like if we don't update it right this second that we're in trouble or anything. It's really just to make sure that we're not so far removed from the last plan. So I think at an upcoming meeting, we can kind of discuss what level the board feels is appropriate for engagement and bringing in other boards, and we can take it from there.
Okay. Sound right, everybody?
I think,
I would just think, Ms. Lauder, is that maybe we wait till after the summer.
Sure.
A lot of people are away
Yeah.
on vacations and not available, so if we put something out there now, people may not see it because they're away or something.
Good September activity.
Yeah, good, great. I'm all for that.
That sound agreeable to everybody?
Yes.
yeah, I was just going to add that maybe our first point of entry with this would be reach out to the community. Do you want to be involved, or do you want just a, smaller committee made up of other town officials and maybe one or two resident volunteers to just do the whole thing and, and just basically put it together and make it happen, save the money, check the boxes, and, and just get that from the community right up front. Because again, like you said, if they're not going to engage us in the beginning, but then they're going to torpedo at the end, I'd rather know that in the beginning. So I guess if I were, if we're on that or part of that committee, any number of us, that would be the first thing I want to know is, hey, how much effort are you looking to put into this with us? And then, we'll try to match that effort and, and get that community engagement and push for that. And again, that will come at an increased cost.
Right.
And if nobody wants to hear anything about it, it's going to be crickets until, May 6th or whatever, and then everybody's going to come in and they're all up in arms about it and shooting it down and we're ruining the town, then, thanks but no thanks.
Right. Well said. All right, yeah, so we'll do that. All right, thank you, ladies.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much,
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on.
Mr. Chairman, as a note, excuse me, the proponent for agenda item B4, 118 Heath Street, emailed me this afternoon that they would not be appearing this evening, and I have put them on the August 18th agenda.
Okay, so then we will be skipping agenda item B4.
Yep.
And move that to our next meeting. No vote necessary for that. Agenda item B5, 1775 Andover Street, repetition request. Gentlemen, once you get settled, give your names for the record. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Jamie Cutlass for American Outside Advertising.
Stephen Ross with American Outside Advertising.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This is a request to reapply with the selectmen for an electronic billboard permit at 1775 Andover, where the Marriott is located. We were before the selectmen a year ago when we submitted an application. They ruled on it 3-2. It needed to be a 4-1 vote. The two people that were primarily against it were as a result of the impact on the residents, because the Marriott was in flux, changing to apartments. The way the billboard is constructed, it really doesn't have any impact whatsoever on the residents there. And we made that clear. In fact, we went before the zoning board and got a variance so that that provision wouldn't even apply, but a couple of selectmen just overrode that and didn't consider it and ruled against it anyway. But so under the general rules, we have to wait 2 years. In this request, we can go early if there are changes in the circumstances of our application, and we did that, or we think we did that at least. We're going to make it higher, and we're going to angle the boards more towards 495 and put shrubbery at the base. And by angling the boards and increasing the height, there'll be virtually no light spillover whatsoever to the residents. They will not see anything at all. It almost be impossible. So that makes it substantially different. Also, we're going to increase the upfront the payment. Each board was $25,000 a year to the town. We're going to pay $200,000 in advance, so we think that's a substantial benefit to the residents of the town. But those material changes in the way the application is going to be submitted to the selectmen address the concerns of the selectmen who are worried about the residents, even though that selectman is no longer there, but, and the other selectmen were very favorable towards it. We think we have a good basis to reapply with the selectmen for this billboard at 1775 Andover. So,
Okay. We'll start, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I mean, I was looking for the substantial changes that allows you to come back in a year. So, I mean, what I'm seeing is that you raised the height 5 feet, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, you're putting some type of a barrier around the base of the pole now?
Yeah, and the angle of the board will be, instead of 30 degrees, it will be 35 degrees.
Yeah.
So there should be zero spillover at all to affect any resident that's in an apartment in that area.
Okay.
So those make it a little much different.
Is there any chance that you could have that type of an electrical engineering plan that would show the light trespass?
I have it, yes.
Yes,
So
a spillover,
I can
yeah.
hand this out if you'd like. We work with Watchfire Signs. They have over 60,000 digital signs internationally, and their conclusion on this, which I can hand out to everyone, was, given the above comparisons and measurements, the area will see an almost undetectable difference in ambient light after the installation of a digital LED billboard. There's no detectable noise or vibration. So we specifically did this and asked them, here's our
That's
situation.
something we have in our packet to look at though, right?
We can submit it now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
If we could just pass that around.
Yeah.
So, and James, I know that the approval, disapproval is going to be for the select board to decide. I understand that. But, and I know that type of a sign doesn't, after talking with Ms. Lauder today, that, it's not the same as a small business electronic signboard here in Tewksbury, But it still could generate the same types of problems, and that's blinding light. And the LEDs today, no matter what people think, can be very blinding. So now many electronic signboards that in town, certainly all the ones that we've approved here, including the library and the senior center, have the capability to dim somewhat at night.
So, 100% correct. You're right on point. It automatically adjusts, and at nighttime, it works at about 3% of its capacity. During the daytime, when the sun's shining on it, it adjusts automatically, but at nighttime, it dims to about 3% of its capacity. And the state also has what they call a knit gun that measures the light being put out, so we have to fall within those regulations as well.
Okay. Is it something you could follow up with either us or the select board with? Like when and if that test, so that is a test, I assume, the state performs or you perform?
The state performs.
After the sign goes up.
So, yeah, the sign is configured to meet those measurements, and then the state will come out and make sure that
Sure.
it's within those
Okay.
measurements.
Yeah, because, I mean, generally, I don't have a problem with the signs at all there, but I do have a problem. The only problem really is just the brightness of electronic signboards. And we don't have the sign police here. And once we make an approval, it's kind of, it's up to everybody to be responsible for, for what they're telling us is going to happen here. And at the select board meeting, whatever's going to happen here, that it actually comes to pass out there. So that's my.
The state has the same concerns, and they actually have an Office of Outdoor Advertising that has field representatives that go out and look at each sign and do these types of measurements. So, yes, everyone's concerned, and, we have the signs adjust automatically to it. If there's any issues, we call a sign company and they adjust it down.
Okay. And do you have, is it like a little roadway or something you're going to have for access into that spot? If you ever get I see there's a ladder on the pole, but, so I imagine there must be some sort of maintenance down the road somewhere.
So minimal maintenance. What the heavy lifting is initially when we have it installed, which we need a crane for, and after that, it's now a guy with a computer in his backpack that climbs up and adjusts. Unless it's a major change, such as changing out the digital face, and they're warranted to last 7 to 10 years.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I was wondering if I could just give this to Ms. Lauder, maybe she could copy it and email it to us so we can read it later?
Absolutely. I had 4 copies, so.
Oh, I see, okay.
That's it?
No, I have, no. But I mean, that way there, we can all have an electronic copy to go with the phone. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fuchsia?
As long as the lighting doesn't affect any of the residents, I don't have a problem with it at this time.
I got to take a step back, only because it might confuse some of the folks at home. This is kind of a unique situation. We're not the permit issuing body for this. This is one of the very few things like this that we don't actually issue the permit for. It goes to the select board. But the way the law is written, we're still the ones deciding whether or not there's enough change to let this be heard again. But the hearing is before someone else. Different board. So all the specifics of the sign and all that is for the select board to deal with. All we really have, and I only say this because this is where we end up in the problems with the, things don't go right and then all of a sudden we're in court about something. All we're being asked here is, do we think that they're presenting something that can be brought back with it? There's enough change here to allow it to come back within the year, not the specifics of the thing itself, because that'll actually be for the select board to deal with, not us. Even if it were us, that would be later anyways, but this one's really not us. So we got to just stick to this, and if there's enough change presented that we feel it can go back to the permitting granting authority, which in this case is the select board, that's it for us on this one, all right? Just so you know what I mean, so we stick to the four corners on this one. All right, Mr. Champlin?
Short and sweet. Mr. Duffy went over all the details of this. I feel there's enough difference here and enough consideration given towards the Marriott being a residence that it's at least worth another look by the select board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fidelia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I also agree with my colleagues that there's enough change here to warrant reconsideration. It's really unfortunate that it didn't get passed at the select board because it's revenue to the town that we need as residents here that affect everybody in this room that are residents that we passed on for a year. And other towns are picking up on these billboards, like Andover, which you don't want to mention, and Lowell as well. We don't want to mention them as well, but they're picking up on the revenue that we lose in town if we don't approve this particular application. And I think it warrants enough to come up again. What you're really, in reality, what you're doing is taking out the hotel sign and putting in a new sign. Was
Yes.
what it was reality. And we're going to generate how much income over 20 years?
Over
$2 million?
a million.
Is it?
A million.
So we'll generate $1 million to the town benefit by
Correct.
having that sign up that affects nobody really, so that you can really see it from the street, from the highway.
Right.
So with that, I'm all for it because we can use the revenue now and in the years to come when we have struggles to meet our budgets and so forth. So with that being said, I'm all in favor of this and good luck with the select board and hopefully it passes.
Thank you, Mr. Fidelia.
All right. Yeah, to me, because we're not even the granting authority here, I'd be loath to not give the select board another opportunity to make a fiscal decision for the town. If they want to do the same thing again, that's fine, but I don't want to get in the way of that. I mean, if it was us, then that might be different, and I already might know what everybody thinks. I have no idea what the select board thinks, but there's money involved, there's changes to so I just as soon let them see if they want to, give you another bite at the apple and see what happens. But I'm not going to get in the way of them at least having the opportunity to hear you out. And if no one's mind's changed, that's up to them, that's fine, but I'm not going to get in the way of that. So, all right. So
One more comment if I could.
Mr. Duffy first, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Vinnie.
Go ahead, Mr. Duffy, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to add one thing, and again, this is something obviously for the select board to consider. I'm taking a quick look at the structural drawings here, and that's a pretty substantial height in a sail, basically. So I guess, and I think I read that you leased some acreage around that sign. Is that understood? Is that?
So we deal with the property owner and we lease that spot on the property. And it's engineered specifically to Massachusetts wind loads, which they exceed what's necessary, I think 125 mile per hour wind loads. And it's anchored either, if it's vibrated in, it probably goes down about 50 feet. If it's a cube footing, it's a 30 by 30 pad with rebar in it. It's not going anywhere.
Okay, I would just, I can't really read the plan on there. It looks like, to show the depth of the footing and so forth, but, there may be somebody at the select board meeting that might be interested in knowing that.
So, great questions. What happens is, if this gets approved, then we have a soil test done, and once we do a soil test, then we know what we're dealing with, and the engineers calculate everything
So that may
accordingly.
change a little bit, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I had.
Mr. Fattah?
Yeah, so I also read in the comments that you guys are going to provide Tewksbury 6 hours of advertising time on the board. Is that correct?
Per month, per face.
Per month?
Per face, yes.
Per face.
So it comes out to be, I believe it's close to 4,000 advertisements a month.
Wow.
And you can advertise whatever you want, whether it's a senior center, immunizations, go football team, road closures, weather alerts.
No commercial stuff though, right?
No business. I mean, you can say, come visit downtown Tewksbury, but it can't be, Vincent's Bar and Grill.
Sure. Sounds
We
good,
say
and that's great. Thank you for
community
doing
market.
that. That's a nice community, effort to get that for them to use. Welcome. Great, all set, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. So with that, do we have a motion as to whether or not the board finds this to be a substantial change and allows the petition to be, the request for repetition to go forward?
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the request for repetition at 1775 Andover Street for the repetition.
All right.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board.
All right. Excellent. Hear that. All right, that moves us on to agenda item C, 15 and 41 Ael Street. This is continued from our June 2nd meeting. All right, gentlemen, once you're settled, if you give your names for the record, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, David Plunkett, representing the applicant. This is for a site plan review, special permit, land disturbance permit for development of a MFD 55 development at the location. With me at the table is Matt Hammer from Landplex. We also have with us in the audience Kim Hazavadian, who is the traffic engineer, who will be available if there's any specific questions pertaining to traffic at the site. Mr. Chairman, just I want to make sure that I know you have a new member of the board, and I just want to make sure that she is part of the voting board before us, because we did have one public hearing prior to her coming onto the board, so.
She's all signed off, right? Yeah.
Okay,
Nope, we're good.
just want to make sure on that. Okay, thank you. Since the last meeting, there's been quite a bit of work performed. Tonight, we're going to go over some of the submittals that have been presented to the board, including the renderings that, as requested, there were renderings for, what the site would look like from different views. In addition, Mr. Hammer has an additional view line that he will hand out in addition to the ones that had been submitted previously. We'll give you an update with our ongoing discussion with DOT, that there has been meetings with them, that there should be another meeting coming up shortly, that there was submittal of additional information pertaining to traffic that's been submitted to them, and we will be meeting with them again. As I said, Mr. Hazavadian is in the audience with us tonight. We have revised plans have been submitted to the town peer review engineer, that there were some changes made pertaining, in response to some of the comments by TEC, and those have been submitted to the peer review party. We're looking at this, and then also there's landscape plans in progress as requested at the last meeting. Just, in terms of a synopsis of the site and the proposal at the location, this is a situation, if you look at the land use potential under the zoning bylaw as it exists, the MFD 55 is actually a very good fit for this site. It's, the impact upon it is going to be less than other potential uses of the site. And when you look at the MFD 55 and look at what it provides to the town, it's a significant niche of housing that throughout the Commonwealth has been recognized in terms of the need for housing. So this is, providing housing, MFD 55 for those 55 or older, and also in response to the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, one of your queries pertaining to affordable housing component, even though the MFD 55 doesn't require, any type of affordable housing component, the applicant has agreed, and we informed through an email to Mrs. Lauder indicating that based upon the submittal with the plan as proposed, that the applicant would be agreeable to 10% submittal to affordable housing. So there's a situation where there would be no negative impact upon the town. It allows the town to, meet a necessary housing component in its plans, in its housing portfolio. And, again, I think that it's a very good fit for the site. The proximity to the LRTA transit site right there on the street, close proximity to 495, significant upgrades and improvements to that area that have gone hand in hand with the build out of the immediate adjoining parcels with the Walmart and the Home Depot and other developments within that 495 interchange. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Hammer.
For the record, Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering, 60 Fletcher Street, Lowell, Mass. So at the last hearing, we took the input from the planning board as well as, the sub-consultant engineer. And we've essentially have made one primary change to the plan, which is to provide a sidewalk to the site from the upper parking area, as well as some additional crosswalks to accommodate that sidewalk. With that change and the comments provided by the sub-consultant, we made some drainage revisions to the site, some grading, small grading revisions related to the sidewalk here, as well as some small revisions to the emergency access off of Ael Street, and some stormwater calculations related to the comments from the sub-consultant engineer. We've since received comments back from that submission. We felt as though we wanted to pause for just a moment to respond to those comments because we're now currently in discussions with Mass Highway related to the curb cut as proposed. Mass Highway is taking a look at the drainage in this area. They're taking a look at the site overall from the prior access permit that they issued, just to ensure they cover all their bases related to the curb cut as it's proposed. And we do have Kim Hauser-Vardian with us this evening to update those discussions as well. We've also had the architect provide these renderings from 3 locations. One is heading southbound on Main Street to see what the site would look like as you're approaching the site southbound. Here's the closest building here. We tried to incorporate some of the existing vegetation and some of the proposed vegetation that's represented on the landscaping plan into the plan the best we could. It also shows the walls that are here on either side of the drive, the entrance drive. This is a view here coming up Ael Street, northbound. This is the existing duplex that's here now.
Do you want to turn that so they can see it, some of the people on the staff, in the audience maybe? That drawing here. So.
I have extra drawings too.
No, so they can see it, that's all.
So this is the view coming up Ael Street here, the existing duplex, and this is a passive view of the buildings and the existing landscaping that's along Ael Street. And then this view here is northbound on Ael Street, on Main Street. A view here of the building here closest to the road, the building in the rear here, as well as the retaining wall and the vegetation. So these renderings took some time with the architect to prepare. They have prepared those. To what the planning board was anticipating. And then this is also an additional look at the project. I have some handouts, if the board would want some handouts on this.
Excuse me.
We apologize, we just received these on Friday afternoon.
Very good.
Just review them before the submission. And this is a kind of a broad perspective view from across the project back on Old Main Street, approaching the project, looking at the project from back on Old Main Street. It shows the access drive, the retaining walls, the 3 buildings, and the landscaping features. The best we could, incorporating the landscaping from the landscape architect's drawings in black. We have also provided an updated landscaping plan from the landscape architect, Lorraine Black, and that plan's been also submitted to the file. So that got updated as well since the last meeting.
Do we have that? Copy to landscape.
Additionally,
They're still working on it.
Additionally, we received approval from the fire department, and we did swept path analysis plans showing the swept path circulation approaching the project from Ael Street. As well from Main Street, showing full circulation of the town of Tewksbury's fire ladder truck. So that's been, new plans that have been prepared and have been approved by the fire departments. Kip, do you want to give an update? Sure. Sorry. Sure.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Kim Hazabardian, traffic engineer with TEP LLC out of Salem, New Hampshire. I have conducted a trip generation analysis for the proposal, and I used standard methodology from the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. And the numbers I'm getting are 28 vehicle trips in the morning, 6 in and 22 out. 35 vehicle trips for the weekday PM peak hour, 22 in and 13 out. And I did those numbers for general age population. If I were to redo the numbers based on senior housing, they'd go down. Now, those numbers are below the threshold where impacts are worth analyzing to any greater degree. A demarcation is generally around 100 vehicle trips, and we're showing significantly less than that. Alternative or other uses of the site would likely generate more. This is a residential use. A retail use would be expected to generate more traffic. Also, the residential use, the traffic enters and leaves kind of in a spread out manner. It's not like a shift getting out all at once. And while the trip generation numbers don't reflect this as a practical matter, the residential use is near complementary commercial uses, and it's near 495, where some of the traffic would likely be oriented. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
So I wanted to add one thing. We brought Kim Hazabardian tonight just to show that he's here to answer any questions. We're currently in the middle of having discussions with Mass DOT at the moment. So traffic assessment reports and memorandums are not finalized in any way at this juncture. Mass Highway had asked us to do some strips out on Old Main Street just to get a clarification on what the current strips are from the cars exiting Old Main Street, which we went and did 2 weeks ago and submitted those to Mass Highway last week. And we're currently waiting for what they do is Zoom call meetings, which we expect to happen this week or next week to continue that discussion with Mass DOT.
Okay. So I guess my first question is, whatever it is you're reading off, has that been submitted to us?
So they have what you have right now.
Not them. You're saying what he was just reading off of we have?
No, I'm saying that Mass DOT had requested from us project information.
Right, I understand. But the answer to my question is the information he was reading off has not been submitted to us, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, that's it.
Yes,
That's
sorry.
all. I could be wrong because it's been a little while, but did we not say we wanted a traffic study the last time we met? We did, correct? We don't have a traffic study. It sounds like Mr. Azavarian's saying that it's not really necessary, which may be true by the numbers you ran, but I'm fairly certain that since we said we wanted one, we don't really care what the numbers say. We want a traffic study. So we're not going to get very far in any of this, and I know we continued a bunch of these, and that's what you guys wanted, and that's fine. So if everybody forgot that from the last time, that's fine. But this isn't going to go very far because we can't talk to Mr. Azavarian about traffic when we have nothing. I'm not going to ask him questions because I'm not a traffic engineer. okay? That would be foolish of me to just start randomly asking him questions without any information in front of me. We can't have our person look at it to tell us what we should be asking about.
Completely
Okay.
understood. So our understanding was from the last hearing was that you wanted us to get confirmation from Mass DOT related to the proposed curb cut that's on the plan today.
That's one of the things we said.
So that's
yes.
what we thought was the primary goal of what you were asking
All
for.
right.
So we didn't,
Maybe we weren't as clear as I'm confident we were. When
Okay,
we
'cause-
made it
yeah.
almost as crystal clear as I can possibly imagine how important we were explaining that traffic was going to be to this project. Now, if we were not crystal clear last time, I'm going to take it upon myself on behalf of my board members, so we don't have to do this 5 times, to make this crystal clear this time, that to come back here without a traffic study that has been submitted to us in advance, long enough for us to have it looked at, commented on, and for us to digest so that we can have a conversation about it. We are going to keep doing what we've been doing, which is this is going to get continued on and on. You're never getting to an end point if we never discuss traffic. And we can't discuss traffic without a traffic study. So I don't think I can make it clearer this time if I didn't last time. We need a traffic study for this project, not a generalness of the air, like this project for this hearing on this matter. We need a traffic
It's
study.
understood, Chairman. We
Okay.
will provide the.
I know, but I just don't want you to come back the next time and say I wasn't clear, because I think I'm clear this time.
I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not trying to
No, that's fine,
circumvent
but
a
I mean, we're not
process.
going, like I'm saying, we're not going to have, I mean, you guys can ask whatever you want when it's your turn, but I'm not having a conversation about traffic when I don't know anything about it yet, other than the fact that I'm concerned about it, and I'd like to know more,
Yeah.
but I can't have an intelligent conversation with you about this right now because I don't have anything
That
to
was
say.
not, that, excuse me, but I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Okay.
Chairman. That was not our intention this evening, was to tell you about.
I know you said he's here for answer questions. How
He
can I
was
have a
here
question?
He was here primarily, if anybody has a question about anything related to vehicles,
I
anything.
have a question then.
Okay.
Do you have a traffic study for me? Right now?
What I hold in my hand is a traffic assessment memorandum, which is a form of traffic study.
Okay, which you have, I do not. Okay. And do you have a traffic study? A traffic study for this project, specific to this project?
I have this traffic assessment memorandum, which I have, but you don't have, and it's specific. It has the number of units, the trip generation, and an assessment of what the potential impacts are.
But if I say our board is looking for a traffic study, do you have that yet?
I have a traffic assessment memorandum, which is a form of a traffic study. Then the long form is a traffic impact and access study,
Yep.
which you'd normally do for something that is
Right.
likely to have an impact that will register in terms of level of service,
Okay.
which this one
All right.
candidly
So
will.
it's that one that I'm looking for, that first of all, okay? But you don't have those, so those are my only questions. If you don't have those, I have no more questions. And
Yeah,
you know
so-
that. You've been here
Yeah,
enough.
so Mr. Johnson, so I guess to clarify, we're working with Mass DOT. So if Mass DOT wanted us,
I appreciate, but
So-
you're also working with us, and if you want us to move this
Absolutely.
process along, you've got to give us what we're asking for. You know we want it. We went over this last time.
I am not-
You know we need this info. Like, you know we
I'm
do.
not
I don't want to argue with you about it. Like, I'm not going to dance around with you, because if you come back the next time and you don't have it, we're going to do the same thing again.
I guess what it was is I didn't want you to be looking at a document where new or additional information might have been requested by Mass DOT.
Fair enough, but you
So that we
understand
give you a
we can't
complete,
move on.
so then we could give you a complete report.
Okay, as long as you know, we can't
That's
move on without
that's
that,
what we're
right?
intending to do.
Because a few minutes ago, you said you didn't know if I wanted it.
No, I didn't, on the last hearing, it wasn't clear to me that we were doing a full-blown traffic study.
Okay, well, then whatever clarification is necessary to know that that's what we want.
Yes.
At some point, because we can't go any further without it, beyond renderings and stuff, that's fine. But anything nitty-gritty of moving this process along doesn't come without that. Like, we just can't.
Correct. And what our intention is, not, I'm sorry
That's good.
to repeat
Fine.
this, was to go through the process with Mass DOT, to make sure we provide the planning board with a full comprehensive update with what Mass DOT is asking for, what Mass DOT is saying about the curb cut, and all of those requirements to be submitted then to the planning board for them to send it out to their sub-consultant review agent if need be. Yes, that's the intention.
Again, which is all fine and good, but like, I just want to be sure we're both on the same page.
We are on the same page.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so without any additions, I'll throw it out to the rest of the board and they can ask their question. Mr. Ciampa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you can imagine, we're going to talk about traffic a little bit here. Only in the sense that, based on a previous hearing, I know that the old study for that particular section of Route 38, our grade was an F. And the traffic engineers that we had in here, both our peer review engineer and the project engineer, were saying that, well, since it's an F, this isn't going to make your grade any worse because you can't get any worse than an F. So what I would like to know is if Mass DOT, the improvements that they made, have moved us from an F to something better than an F. And then if so, we might only be one car, one trip out of that failure zone, which means that if this project then pushes us back into that failure zone, we've kind of undone probably a whole lot of the state's money and a whole lot of lost time and anxiety by our residents while the construction was going on. So those are, I would like to know what the new baseline is from Mass DOT. Ms. Lauder, I don't even know, how do we get that? Is that a burden of this project to get that information as far as whether we've gotten out of the F into whatever is slightly less bad than an F?
So I went back to the traffic analysis you were referring to that was completed by our peer review engineer under the application for 402 Main Street. And looking at the level of service for that intersection, it is currently, let's see, there's a whole section explaining the grades, but the level of service is something that's typically included from my, again, not a traffic engineer, but from what I've seen, that's typically something that's included in the baseline considerations for the analysis, and then it will shift in one way or the other, improving or making worse what is already there. Trying to pull up the information specific to that intersection, which may take me a few minutes, but my understanding, and you know, certainly experts in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a part of the review last time around, so I wouldn't anticipate it being terribly different.
But to clarify Mr. Chair's question, if we get the report we're asking about, that would be included in it?
My understanding is the level of service for the intersection, how it performs, would be included.
Okay.
So if we've upgraded to a D, assuming they're using grade school letter system, we upgraded to a D. If this project keeps us in a D, that would be one type of outcome. If we made it to a D and this pushes us back into an F, that would be a less desirable outcome. If we're still an F and we're just becoming a worse F, that's probably the least desirable outcome, which I think was something we expressed to the 402 Main Street project. So, all right, well, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
It looks like there's a sidewalk that pretty much covers the entire stretch. I can't quite see far enough up from Ael Street all the way down. How much of that would be upgraded to Mass DOT Route 38 standards, or is that part of what your back and forth with them is with the curb cut and everything else?
Are you talking about the proposed sidewalk through the development coming to the?
Sidewalk on Route 38. There's an asphalt, concrete sidewalk with what looks like some fairly uneven granite curbing. I was curious if Mass DOT was asking you to upgrade a certain amount of that sidewalk.
They have not.
Okay.
But I will take a look at that, Mr. Ciampa.
Well, you referenced that its proximity to the nearby businesses, and you're referring to Wamasett Place and Home Depot, make this an attractive, sorry, the word escapes me, complementary type of project. Therefore, it makes sense to me that we would want to make sure they have a nice, clean sidewalk to walk down. And right now, it has probably leaves on it and debris and stuff like that because it's not probably used all that much. But if you're going to put this into a higher level of use, people walking, down towards 38 along your sidewalk on the off-ramp, sorry, I don't mean to make it sound like a highway, but on the driveway down to 38, they're going to walk to Dunkin' Donuts, they might walk to, the liquor store, they might walk the other way to Walmart. Hopefully they're not going to lug some 2x4s back from Home Depot, but point being is, if you're going to tout that, if Mass DOT doesn't require it, I'd like to hear what your plans are to make this attractive to pedestrian and bike traffic, or really just pedestrian traffic. The bike traffic is.
All I said is they haven't to date said anything about the sidewalk. That doesn't mean that improvements to the sidewalk couldn't be made through those continued discussions, but I made note of it, and we'll take a look at that, the condition of that existing
It's a
sidewalk.
long sidewalk, so I'm not trying to put you on the hook for, a ridiculous amount of money. That's going to be part of the calculation, but, my feeling is if Mass DOT doesn't require it, but you're going to come in and say, hey, look how easy it is to walk to all of these places from this new project, I would want to have some kind of assurance that that walking path is being provided for the people of this project. Let's see here, next thing, sidewalk. I had some questions last time we had much more detailed construction drawings with elevations and whatnot. And there was some verbiage about, or we had some discussion about that certain elevations are allowed to be higher than the maximum requirement because you're supposed to take the average of all of the elevations, something to that effect. The only elevations in your rendering, I think, the picture on the upper left probably details the elevation that's going to raise the most concern with the people of Tewksbury. What is the elevation above street level of the rear two buildings of this project?
So it's approximately, so the grade from the rear to the front is a difference of 34 feet.
Okay.
34 feet now.
What's the?
No yelling out. No yelling out.
So from Ael Street, pretty much in your rendering, where it starts to take the corner there. So from the grade of Ael Street to the top of the building, so I'm on the upper left picture.
So sorry to interrupt you, but I was giving you a grade from behind the buildings, the grade of the terrain was a difference of 34.
The building.
Yep.
I'm looking for the height of the buildings above street level in your upper left picture. And I want to know if they are compliant with the maximum height or if you're relying on the averaging to accommodate the height of those structures. Because I'm assuming that your parking lot and everything else is pretty flat back there.
So we don't determine height unless it is by the average. That's per the building commissioner. That's the height of a building in Tewksbury has to be calculated by the average grades.
Okay, but you do architectural work.
I'm not an architect, but I'm an engineer.
Okay, so you're an engineer. So you have a drawing that has the grade elevation of the street, and then you have the height of your buildings.
Yeah.
The point closest to the street. I'm just asking you, what is that height?
So you want a height from the top of the building, it sounds like.
From the top of the building to at the point closest to the street to the grade of the street.
So. So in the front of the building, to the top of the roof is 50 feet. Okay, and then from the
Front of the
grade.
building to the top? Okay.
You have three buildings, so it's it's a matter of where you're standing in front of each of the three buildings.
I'm standing on the street, looking up
Okay,
at the part of the building I can see.
Right, so from the top of the building to the street, it's just not an elevation difference that we have labeled on the plan.
Okay.
So it's.
If you don't have it tonight, that's okay.
So,
I would like that
but I want to make
information.
sure I give you that answer for how you want that translated back to you, because there's three different height elevations, depending on where you are at each of the three
I'm
buildings.
thinking is from the point of view of if I'm a resident of Ael Street and I'm in my driveway, which I'm going to assume is pretty close to street level, and I'm looking up at the corner of the building closest to me, how high up that is from where my feet are. And I think there's two buildings there that are relevant to that. One of them, you can see, is basically the corner of the building is coming out through the trees. The other one you see is you start to take the bend.
Yeah.
So, and again, if you don't have that tonight, that's okay. But that is a relative piece of information that I would like to have.
Yeah, because you asked that at the
That's
last.
what your neighbors are gonna, that's what the residents of Ael Street are gonna be waking up to every day. I just want to know what that looks like.
Okay. So we'll try to provide some clarification on the different grade differentials as you're on the street of Main Street to the top of the buildings. No, Mr.
I think
Johnson?
Mr. Ham, he's looking to find out the distance from the sidewalk on Ael Street to the top of the
that
building. To the
You'd
top
be
of the building that I
standing
walk by on
looking
the
up at it.
sidewalk. How high is it?
So are you talking about the sidewalk down at the intersection?
Ael Street sidewalk.
I can't. Hold on.
There's no,
Maybe I'm wrong. Hold on a second. We'll do this. I think. This picture, you're standing on the ground right there.
okay.
From that piece of ground, straight up to the
Okay.
top of that building where you're standing.
All right.
How high is it? From that piece of ground, right underneath you. That's what he's at. Am I wrong?
That's exactly correct, Mr. Chairman.
The reason why I'm asking the questions, Chairman, is because I just don't want to,
I know what, I think I understand the problem. You have your numbers that you have to do that you submit, that's fine.
Okay.
But he's asking for a specific number. He wants somebody's feet on the ground on Ael Street
okay.
and looking straight up at a building that's right in front of them. How tall is that building for the person standing on Ael Street? Not the average of them all and all that. Literally,
Right.
how tall does that building appear ground up from that person's feet?
Right, so what I will do is I'll put a series of points along Astle Street that'll then be where you're standing at those points, what the height of the roof will be to the closest building at those points. How's that?
So-
Excellent.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
The trees, sorry, let me jump back to the rendering here for a sec. So the blue house that's in your rendering on the upper left, the trees that you're showing in the rendering, and those same trees are there in Google Street View, although in Google Street View, they're a little less sparse. Are those trees part of the property of the project, or are they on the property of that bluish gray house?
Which is, so that's all one property. The bluish gray house is part of the property, on the property, which is the subject locus of the site.
Okay. So,
It just so happened, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you,
that's
Mr. Campa, but if you take a look at the site plan, there's a big portion of the property where the two-family is that's going to be existing, of significant portion as you're coming up Astle Street. Some of those trees existing will remain that are along Astle Street that are beyond the level of grading that's shown on the site plan.
okay, and just refresh my memory, what's going to happen with this house? Is that staying in place?
That is going to stay in
Rendering?
place, yes.
Okay. But that's.
It's going to be painted.
That's also owned by whoever owns.
That's correct.
The rest of this property.
And we will be painting it and
No, but I mean, if you're renting it to someone, they get what they get. They understand that they're renting it, but, you know, they're going to be under the shadow of, you know, the trees and potentially some of the other windows, which may impact their privacy. But again, you get what you get. And so, all right, I think that's all I have for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Fuchsia?
My curiosity is on the house on Ael Street, after the building, what is going to be there? Is there still going to be some woods there, or is that going to be exposed to the residents?
So I think if you, let me see if I, I should also point out that the architects try to do the best they can to give you a perception of what it's going to look like.
Sure.
Everything's not exact.
I'm just curious on the clearing, like when you guys do the work,
Yeah.
that is a very wooded area, and it's very private for the residents there.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the reason why people move up there, is because they like the privacy.
Yep.
How much of that is going to be exposed, the building of it is going to be exposed to these residents?
Okay, I'm about to answer you that.
Okay.
So this plan here is an existing conditions plan. So we have surveyed this outside of the wooded area tree line, which is existing today. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. We now go sorry this is taking me so long, to the grading plan. So here's the edge of that existing tree line, and we're showing how that portion will stay. This area that's graded, those trees will be removed, okay? When you go past this emergency entrance, you'll also see this wooded area here along Ael Street. That wooded area will stay.
Okay.
Okay? And then what the landscape architect has done, Miss Lorraine Black, which I can bring to a hearing too, to answer specific questions, has proposed landscaping in those areas where those trees are being removed for the purpose of the development.
Right, so there's going to be some exposure anyway.
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
Yeah. So, did that answer your question?
For now, yeah.
Okay.
And my only other thing is going to be the assessment on the traffic, because the traffic in that area, I'm not an assessment person, but I am a resident, and that is a terrible, terrible intersection. And the traffic, no matter what time of day you go there, is awful.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
I'd also like to know that the development is not having any traffic going out onto Ael Street.
Is there an opening there on Ael Street?
Just for emergency vehicles,
So there's only one in and out?
Correct.
down here at Main Street.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I know you mentioned that your architect is trying to be accurate with the renderings. So I'm looking at the revised site plans as opposed to the permit set from February. And I know, so basically you're saying that you've made some revisions on this plan, but very difficult to see what the revisions are. So I'm going to ask that you could either bullet point something somewhere on the plan? You know, because I mean, I'm looking at that plan, but what are the revisions? There's a lot of information just on that one page, the erosion control plan, okay? Would you say?
Yeah, you should really be looking at the grading plan, which would be the sheet before that, sheet 4 of 7, which doesn't have the erosion control devices on it to provide a little bit more clarity. I know there's a lot going on in the plan. But the big change to this plan was the sidewalk, in the grading of the sidewalk.
So I'm looking at the rendering, and if you look back at the permit plan set from February, it shows the retaining wall at 41 feet from the, what looks to be the property line. Well, the rendering doesn't look anywhere near 41 feet to me. And with the revision, you're showing some sort of, on the erosion control, you're showing some, like a row of riprap. And I would assume that that's at the base somewhere along where the retaining wall is. But I certainly can't, you know, extrapolate that from the plans that you're showing us here. So it's definitely that, you know, that big massive retaining wall that's going to be there, we're going to need to see some pretty good detail, or I am going to need to see some pretty good detail on that, you know, much more than you have there right now. I was also looking on that plan on the erosion control, but I guess I can look at the other one too. I can look at the grading plan. You know, what is the short-term or long-term use of the two-story, two-family dwelling? What's going on there?
Just be continued
So
to
that's
use as a...
totally not part of this.
That's part of it.
Part of it,
part of it.
but it's just staying as is. The part, what's
Nothing's
there
changing
stays.
relative to that structure.
Okay. Okay, so anyways, what I'm looking at here, if I look at the grade, I'm looking at maybe in 40, 50, 60 feet, I'm looking at 158 to 170. So that's a pretty steep grade. And, you know, that's something in the neighborhood of 14 feet over a pretty short period, and it comes right off the corner of the building.
Hmm?
You know, like literally right off the corner. So I would imagine that there has to be something alongside the building to control the erosion there, if we go back down to the erosion control plan. But either way, there is going to be some serious runoff going down directly into the side of that house. And I'm just wondering if you have any plans to, to mitigate that.
Yeah, there's a shallow swale that picks up that flow at the bottom of that slope that brings it around the duplex.
Okay, I
So
don't see
that's-
anything that looks like a swale on there.
I can show you.
You know, based on your elevations, that is.
Now we've you see,
Which page are you on?
I'm on sheet 4-7. It would show up on 5-7 as well. The erosion.
All right, so you're on,
Want me to show you on the screen?
no, so are you on the erosion control plan?
Sure. You can go to that.
It's up to you, whatever one works for you.
Fine.
Okay, so I'm on sheet 5.
Yep.
You just grab the microphone if you would, sorry, just because it's behind you. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Okay?
So these contours here, how they curl
I can't
back.
see what you're pointing at.
That's why I thought I might go to your screen.
Sure.
So see how these curl back? That creates a swale.
Okay, but it's not earmarked as such.
Well, I can update that. I could make it more clear that the functionality of that grading is for a swale.
Okay. And that's great. And the thing is that as you go in and make all of these revisions, it's very, very difficult for probably most of us to, go back to the first plan that you submitted and try to figure out how many and what type of revisions have been made since the inception of these plans.
Yeah, so we try to be as clear as we can on the response letter to the change that's being made and where it can be located in the documents that are being submitted with the response.
It just seems like we're not getting a lot of that documentation, though. You know what I mean? So, if you want us to see something, then we should probably have it here at the meeting, or have it before the meeting, so that we can take a peek at it. Okay, so we'll leave that there, Matt. I have one more question for you, though. I know you said that you were halfway through your discussions with Mass DOT, okay? So I would like to know what kind of discussions you had in the first half of the discussions that you've already had.
So before Mass Highway would just simply agree to reinstate the curb cut access permit that they already issued, they wanted to see all the material that had been submitted, and they also wanted to check traffic counts on Old Main Street to determine whether they're going to support the location of the entrance where we have it right now.
Okay, and then one more question. I know I said that before, but one more. So you guys obviously have already applied for your building permit here in Tewksbury? No. So the only reason I mention that's really none of our purview here, but I know that there have been some changes because the 10th edition kicked in the beginning of this month, and there were some changes on how the building elevations.
Yeah, it's good that you brought that up. Yeah, so we actually met with the building commissioner before we did the plans to get full clarification on the grading of the buildings.
Oh, okay, so, but you don't have a permit yet, so that means you're going to be, this construction is going to be under the 10th edition. So, 10th edition building, which has a different criteria for determining the average height of the buildings. So that's something you just may want to take a peek at.
Right.
I don't expect an answer right now, but you might want to take a peek at and get us some information on that we could look at would be great.
Well, as you know, the building commission does have a copy of these plans. So, maybe we might need to get some clarification from the building commissioner as to the height of the buildings and the grading, if that might be
Right,
better
because
suited.
everybody wants to know what the height of the building is, Matt, okay? So it may be different now, because it might have to be based on a different grade. I think like in the 9th edition, it was something like an average grade of the grade around the building or something, but it may have changed. So, and I can't speak intelligently to it, but I know that there's something there that probably we could answer our questions more intelligently if we knew that that it wasn't a guessing game as to how high the building is.
There's no guessing game as to the way that this site is graded in our calculations related to the stories, which is on the grading plan. If you go to the grading plan, you'll see a section here that says story above grade calculations for each of the 3 buildings. You see that?
Hold on.
Go to sheet 4.
Sheet 4?
Yep, go up. Go up. Keep going.
Yeah.
Now go up. You gotta go.
Over here?
Yep, go up. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
Right
in the
there.
notes, okay.
Right there. You're going to see a very detailed calculation citing the town of Tewksbury's zoning definitions of story above grade and so on and so forth, which is very important to have that identified on these plans to ensure that we are in compliance with the town of Tewksbury's.
I appreciate that.
Let me just finish, though.
Matt. But all I'm saying is that there may be a change in that.
Which is always a possibility in the future.
Right.
So we are anticipating any of that change in these plans, and if something were to change.
I can't imagine it's going to be a substantial change in the height, but it may be something.
We're not
And I do have, I'm going to just jump back to one more thing. and I do have major concerns with the retaining wall, the riprap, you know, that whole retainage type thing. You know, that needs to be, I'm sure, rock solid. That needs to be, you know, and that's not our decision to make, but it certainly would make, you know, make other decisions a little easier if there was good information on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with these new plans, Mr. Hammer, you originally proposed 90 units, is that correct? And what are they now?
90 units.
Yeah, it's still 90.
Still 90?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So with 90 units, I still have issues with density at the site and so many units there coming in and out, and there's no traffic light proposed, correct?
Not at this time, no.
No? Okay. Your last permit from Mass DOT, it took almost about a year, I think, right? The original one?
To obtain the permit?
What's that?
A year to obtain the permit?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's reasonable.
okay.
Yeah.
So do you expect the same thing to happen here?
No, I do not.
No? Okay. All right. So we haven't seen the traffic study, but he proposed it to some of the facts and figures tonight, which was appalling to me because the residents in here are looking for that same figures. So hopefully we'll have them next time.
Yep.
All right, so, because it's very important. That area over there is very high traffic area.
Absolutely.
Mr. Plunkett, you mentioned about Home Depot and Walmart being there. They create a lot of traffic coming down that street. So you're going to be adding 90 units.
I was making
Location.
reference relative to hand in hand with that were the improvements to that area and access to 495. So there's been significant improvements to the 495 access in that immediate area to those developments that went hand in hand with their development.
Mr. Hammer, you mentioned earlier about Mass DOT wanted to get information on Old Boston Road,
No, Old Main Street.
Old Main Street.
Yes.
Why is that so significant? It's a small street, rather than being concerned
Well, I had
about
to-
Route 38 traffic.
Yeah, that's a good observation. So it had to do with the proximity of the entrance to the project. So they just wanted to have updated figures for that before they, through their review.
Updated figures of how much traffic comes out of Old Main Street?
Yeah, which, listen, I thought it was odd too, but we put traffic
About
strip.
6 or 7 houses on the street. I mean,
Okay, so I thought it was odd too. We put the traffic strips down 2 weeks ago. We provided them the information and they have it now. So that's what we did.
Okay.
We're going to do whatever they asked us to do.
Did you do any traffic strips on Main Street itself, or you don't need to do that?
It wasn't specifically asked of us, excuse me, but we do have them.
You do have them?
Yeah,
Okay, we haven't seen them, but.
that's correct.
Do Ael Street too? Just curious.
We have counsel that.
Yeah, we have the Ael Street counts. I mean, this whole area, we all know what the traffic is here. It's actually redundant information. Mass Highway has done the intersection down at Ael Street. They've also improved the intersection, the 2 other intersections heading towards 495. And there hasn't been too much new development in the area to significantly alter those numbers.
Yeah.
So we have pretty clear data for the
I
area.
look forward to seeing them. So one of my other questions is, with 90 units, how many parking spaces are you going to provide?
170.
Okay.
But it should be noted, if Matt could, indicate what's required.
Sure. What's required is 149.
Okay. Plus visitors that are going to be visiting the site maybe, right?
Yeah, so we have an extra 21.
Okay.
These-
For 90 units?
Yeah, I mean, they're over 55 units. They are 1,200 square foot units, so they're not big units. On average, that's approximately how big they are. So we feel as though the project definitely has more than enough parking than what would be required.
Yeah, okay. All right. With that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to see some traffic issues, but you don't have to. So,
Okay. All right, I did my stuff up front, so I'm good for now. I'll open up to the audience. Anyone in the audience, any questions, comments, or concerns? Come on up to the podium, give your name and your address, and the floor will be yours.
Good evening. Ralph Bliss, 249 Ael Street. I want to thank Mr. Champa for asking about the elevations at a prior meeting. You've got a couple of renderings here. The one that I want to see is exiting Ael Street. And what we see coming from Ael Street, from the Lowell direction toward Main Street. Because I think what we're going to be looking at is a solid wall of building. And that's a horrible thought. I know
On Ael Street, looking towards Lowell, he's saying he wants to see the one as if you were coming from Lowell.
Correct.
Down Ael Street towards
Down
Pike?
Ael Street as if you were coming all the way
Is that right?
to Main Street, but.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
I miss, okay. Now I
Just from a
understand.
presentation standpoint, and the foliage and the vegetation illustrated here, it looks pretty on paper. I hope I live long enough to see trees of this maturity show up after construction, because I don't believe they're not going to go in and clear cut. I just don't believe it. If you're going to tell me that you're going to leave the trees that are there to support that view, I'd be very impressed. And I hope that's what happens if this plan goes forward. On the plan, I haven't seen the revised plan, but on the original or the most recent plan that was circulated and made available online, you get about 20 feet between, maybe not the building, but the parking lot and the sidewalk to the edge of Ael Street. That's pretty good in terms of what you're able to grow in that 20 feet. I'm just saying that all power to the architect, that looks pretty good, and I hope that's possible. I strongly encourage and ask that the planning board receive and verify whatever traffic study you've asked for is not only accurate for the size of this development, but that it has any relevance whatsoever to the configuration of the streets for this site. You've got Main Street, Route 38, Ael Street, you've got Pike Street, you've got Miranda opposite that. I'd be very impressed if any of the numbers that you've heard so far this evening take into consideration the left turn problems that were discussed not only here, but back in 2018. And I think, Mr. Vitalia, you were on that board as well. And I'm just going to bring up one other point. Back in 2018, when there were 75 units, and now we have 90 on the proposal. The morning of the AM routes, the traffic count offered by this traffic assessment that was dated November 30th of 2017 said that there would be, 41 versus 28, now that we have 90 units. And in the evening, it was going to be 59 versus 35 back in 2018.
So one thing I would caution is that it wasn't a 55-plus development at the time, so we'd have to
That's
wait for
fair.
the new numbers.
It's a fair observation.
So that's probably, I'm sure that would be the explanation, but until we have the full one, we're not going to know any of that.
Mr. Hazavarian offered that report, so this is the same, this is the same source of the earlier report, and your point is well taken that it could be a different population. I do think that back in 2018, when it was pointed out that the information that was provided wasn't relevant to this configuration of street layout, I think we should ask the same question about the current report of impact on traffic for the current data that's been provided. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with any questions, comments, or concerns at this time? Go ahead. Just give your name and your address, and the floor is yours.
Okay.
Justin Garofano. I own a business right here. ATA Martial Arts. I've been there for about 22 years, and 23 maybe at this point. I'm already having issues with the flow of traffic at certain times of day.
Excuse me.
You got to stay with the mic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So I'm already having issues with the flow of traffic in relation to how my customers are getting in and out of this plaza. The traffic will be backed up past the entrance, and then we only have 2 entrances here. And this is where many of my clients are coming from. You know, we talk about 38, right? And you know, the amount of traffic that's going down 38. Well, people will bypass Main Street, right? And they will use Ael Street as a throughway if they're going from Lowell to Tewksbury or vice versa. Look, 90 units, I mean, I looked at the pictures, I thought I was looking at Boston. This is Tewksbury, guys. I am also a real estate investor, so I'm not going to be one to say, you know, hey, you know, poo-poo on his idea, you know, for trying to make, you know, good revenue from this. But this is a residential area. I mean, I've been there a long time. I've seen a lot of changes. I'm hard pressed to see how that fits in with the fabric of this particular neighborhood and community here, right? Downtown Lowell, yeah, absolutely, all day long. But I mean, that's a minor point. I digress here. The traffic is my main concern. You know, what about construction? I mean, how's that going to affect how I make money? I mean, I have parents that will quit my martial arts school based off of a 5-minute differential between whether they get their kids to my facility or not. So, you know, what's that going to do to me? I mean, that's a major concern during construction and after the fact. I see that there's an emergency exit there. I mean, you guys have been on that stretch. You're sitting at Vic's Waffle House and you're looking across the street. I mean, the traffic will back up roundabout there. So if those residents can't get into that entrance and exit, they're going to use that emergency zone to get in and out. Am I wrong?
You can't. It's only for emergency access vehicles.
Of course. I mean,
I don't mean like you can pretend it's not. I mean, you literally can't get through. You need something to get through the gate.
So it's a blocked off.
Yeah, it's not like just don't go this way. It's you can't.
Okay. Well, that's fine. All right. But still, you're dealing with adding traffic to Route 38 there. You know, so I see it being a problem either way. Let's see here. Are these rentals or are these condos for sale?
The intent is that the 90 units will be rental units.
None of them will be rental units.
No, that they will be rental units.
Oh, they will all be rental units. Okay, so there's going to be moving trucks coming and going every couple of years, right? So am I right or wrong? Right? So there's, anyways. Now, have you guys walked the property back there? Have you stood where it's going to be in relation to the other 2 residential units there for the planning board?
I don't know, does anybody happen to have stood out there?
Yeah, I use Ael Street pretty regularly. I live in that area, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I took a walk back there. You know, the average height for a six-story building is 60 to 90 feet. And I stood back there right 15 feet off the property line, 20 feet off the property line, and I looked straight up, and I looked over at the backyard of the house that's back there. You know, there's little kids that live there, and if I was living there and I had my little kid running around the backyard and 4 floors above can see my kid streaking in my backyard, I'd have an issue. So I'm all for putting a few duplexes on that spot, but a 90-unit apartment building, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how it fits. So that is about all I have to say. So I'm fundamentally against this. And that's where I stand. I just wanted you guys to know and hear from somebody who's not a resident of Tewksbury, but I've been doing business here for 25 years. I care about this town, and this doesn't sit well with me. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else with questions, comments, or concerns? Good. Name and address, please.
Thank you. Don Dooley, 244 Ael Street. Yeah, I also agree that this is just a terrible plan. In all the reasons that we mentioned, it's really going to change the character of our neighborhood, the entrance to Tewksbury. The other thing too is I'm wondering if there's 200 people living on this site, where do they go for a walk? You can't walk on Ael Street. It's very dangerous with the sight lines. So they're going to drive. So now we're going to add more traffic with just routine little errands and going for a walk. So the emergency services, they're going to try to use the main entrance on Main Street if they can, ambulances. And it's just going to be a problem. I just think that the goal of the plan, from my perspective, is to maximize money. And I really think that there's no empathy to the residents, the future residents, the people coming into Tewksbury trying to go to businesses, and also emergency services. It was turned down the last time with a smaller unit. I really think that there needs to be another plan to develop this site that's not 5-story buildings with 90 units. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions, comments, or concerns? Going once, twice? Sold. All right, bring it back to the board. I suspect we'll be continuing this.
I just had one more thought. I don't recall that we've talked about this. Are you planning on doing a phased turnover for occupancy or bringing all 90 units online at the same time?
I imagine there would be some type of potential staggered development, but, it all depends on.
We've had people in here to try to revise their permits and whatnot to do phased turnover. So, I'm bringing that kind of as a friendly heads up, I guess, that if that's your plan, please have that in detail and know that we're going to want to see the turnover of affordable units to match the turnover of the building. So if you put all 9 affordable units in building 1, then all 9 affordable units have to come online in phase 1. They don't get to go to phase 3. So you have to at least keep up with a percentage basis of 3 units per building that you're turning over.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Also, as the resident mentioned, he's got a good point there, have you considered any type of a construction mitigation plan, construction gate, so the traffic doesn't get blocked up on Ael Street there? That's going to impact their businesses down there. So maybe, prior to construction, it's going to be a difficult site to work on, I would guess.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that there's going to be trouble with trucks, there's going to be trouble with vehicles getting up and down slopes, there's going to be some trouble there. And I think that all of those issues need to be worked out before you move the excavators on site. That's what I think.
Okay.
And that it's most certainly part of the land disturbance permit as well. But we can provide some additional information to the board related to that.
So, Mr. Duffy, you mentioned the blockage of Ael Street. There was a truck today on Ael Street, came down Ael Street,
Go to September.
taking a left onto Pike Street, couldn't go because there was traffic, and stopped everybody coming up Main Street onto Pike Street, created a havoc there today on Pike Street, on Ael Street, and Main Street, because the gentleman didn't know he should stop before he gets to Pike. So that's some of the issues you're going to have to deal with as far as construction vehicles and everything else. So, but it's a tough spot. So, but just so you know, thank you.
All right, so with that, I presume the next hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I think August 18th is next.
Yeah, we do
What is
one a
the
month
first hearing
until we get
in,
back to September, so do you want to wait till September?
Yeah.
What's your first hearing date?
The 2 meetings are September 8th and September 22nd. So, if your traffic study is still in progress, to allow enough time for that to be wrapped up and then submitted for peer review and what have you, I would say take that into consideration when selecting one of those meetings.
You want to do the 8th?
What's your thoughts?
I mean, it makes much, we want you to come back with something to, because I don't want to do the same one over again, you know what I mean? You want us to move on and talk about, so. All right, so then is 7:00 something?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock?
Yep.
All right, so do I have a motion to continue this hearing until 7 PM on the 8th of September?
So moved.
I have a motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we see you guys on the 8th.
Thank you, Lisa.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend making a quick recess
Yeah,
just to
just
allow
for bodies
traffic
to move.
folks
So we'll take a 3-minute and hopefully we'll be back in 5. So, all right?
Just because I feel like we're not.
Yeah. Welcome back. Call the meeting back into order.
Mike's up.
We're going to move. Item 2. I'm sorry. Welcome back. We'll call this meeting back into order. We're going to move on to agenda item D, which is 485 Main Street. 485 Main Street is requested to be continued to our next meeting. We currently have them penciled in for 7:20. Could I have a motion to continue that hearing until 7:20 on August 18th?
So moved.
A motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item E, 913 East Street. This applicant is also requested to be continued to our 8/18 meeting. We have a motion to continue that till 7:15 on 8/18.
So moved.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item F, 270 Main Street. The applicant is requested to be continued to the 8/18 meeting as well. Could I have a motion to continue that till 7:25 on 8/18?
So moved.
I have a motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. That brings us to agenda item G, which is 2212 Main Street. This is continued from our 6/16 meeting.
All you.
Gentlemen, once you get settled, if you just give your names to the record, the floor is yours.
Richard Bellino, McGovern Auto.
John Crandall, McGovern Automotive Group.
All right. All right, gentlemen, floor is yours.
So as per your request, I was able to negotiate with the gentleman from Richard Proctor from Maverick, and he's alleviated and decided to give all 100% of his rent to the town. We submitted the documents last week. I do have one copy if you guys don't have it.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Okay. Just wanted to know, how do we proceed? Who do we write the check out to? And obviously, where we go from here.
So what I would say is, I'm just going to jump up front just so we can move it along quickly. So obviously, that stuff will be handled. The town will let you know exactly how that all works with the, the assessors, collector, everything. That they can give you that information as to how and where they want that sent.
Okay.
Correct? Okay. And we can, again, provided that the permit goes through, we can include all that verbiage, and then you can deal with the town directly on the how to get it taken care of. Okay?
Okay.
So, all right, so just to give, maybe just as a refresher, this is for, overall, the request is to have how many vehicles on the site?
There's about 150 vehicles on the site.
Okay, so just as a refresher for everyone. All right, so that's it for that. That's all that we're requesting for this. Everything else has been squared away with the town as far as they're okay with the way we're doing this? Okay, all right. All right, so I'll try to do this quickly. Any of the board members with any questions or comments on this?
I'm all set.
On this one?
Yep, no questions.
All set. All right. So the only thing I'm going to say, and this is only because it's been mentioned or whatever, but it's just cars, right? You're only keeping cars there, correct?
Yeah, well, Hyundai makes a small pickup truck called the Santa Cruz. That'd be the only truck.
Okay, but no materials or anything like that?
No, nothing like
stored
that.
on site from you guys?
SUVs, nothing.
All right, so I'm only going to make the suggestion that, we're clear about it's for vehicle storage, for the numbers we're talking about, of your vehicles, just so we're keeping it tight and making sure it's specific to you guys, and then it's not any other kind of storage on site, and we keep it clean and, whatnot.
No.
So, all right? Okay. All right, so with that, if the board doesn't have any other questions or comments, we can have a motion to close the public hearing if the board so chooses.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion made and a second. Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, so as to the special permit request, do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit request for satellite parking at 2212 Main Street.
Okay, and then with the conditions, obviously, we've got the lease agreement condition.
So just to confirm the two conditions, as I understand it, one of them being that the permit applicant will be submitting payment directly to the town of Tewksbury in the amount of $5,000 on the first of every month, beginning with August 1st, as detailed in the amendment to the license agreement, that being number one. And number two, it'll only be for vehicle storage up to a maximum, was it 115 or 150?
150.
150, to a maximum of 150 specific to, and this agreement is specific to McGovern Auto and is not transferable to any other dealerships or operators.
Yeah, if you get that, somebody's going to have to come back and talk to us.
Right.
And the only other one I would ask, that we add as a condition is just that the cars will be kept in, an orderly and, I don't know how to say, just that everything's going to be kept on site in an orderly fashion and
They will
not.
all be functional cars.
Yes,
There will
that
be no
not storage,
salvage
these
vehicles.
are the storage for your vehicles that you guys are planning to use for sale, and this isn't, it's not a storage site of,
Eaters and trade-ins.
yeah, that kind of thing.
No, there'll be
You know what I mean? And everything will be
no
parked-
used cars there at all.
Everything will be
Excess
parked on
inventory,
site,
and
right, no-
excess new
yeah, exactly.
inventory
And
then.
it will not be, all the cars will be parked in an orderly fashion, and kept that way, just,
So-
that's that slap shot and, kind
So
of
I've
thing.
hired a couple extra lot attendants that go down, maintain it every week to clean it up.
There are a couple antique cars there.
Yeah, that's not us.
They're gonna have to deal with that, because
that's
they're
not
not
in
in
there.
there. Snow, like.
Well, anybody's seen them
dealing
driving
with
through.
All right, so yeah, and then, everything will just be, that should take care of everything, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we have those conditions. All right, so we have that motion. Do we have a
We
second?
need a second.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Good luck, gentlemen. We'll see you on the other one soon.
Yes,
All right,
thank you.
very good. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to Agenda Item H, which is a return to our administrative actions, land disturbance permit draft changes. Ms. Lauder?
Sure. So as discussed last meeting, we talked about developing a bit more of a streamlined process for folks who are going for permitting specifically related to stormwater management and adherence to Mass DEP standards. So there was some question about the suitability of the Conservation Commission for this task and what the planning board's involvement would be going forward. So what you have in front of you is a red line version of Chapter 19, which is the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw, which governs the land disturbance permit and issues that authority to the planning board. And that whole thing is literally a find and replace from planning board to Conservation Commission. And going forward, the planning board is still going to have its site plan review process, which includes a stormwater review. What this is intended to do is to take those smaller projects, it's generally single-family homes up to 3. I think anything beyond that would get to a point where it's a major site plan review will be coming to you folks. So anybody building 1, 2, or 3 single or two-family homes would not have to come to the planning board, and they would only be going to the Conservation Commission. And as I mentioned previously, 9 times out of 10, they're going to them anyway. I believe I had spoken last time and to a few of you individually that there's only been one such application since I started with the town in 2019 that was a standalone land disturbance permit that had no other boards to go to. I believe at least Mr. Johnson and Mr. Fratelli were on the board. It was 85 French Street. And what this kind of allows is when this board primarily deals with land use, suitability of use, and things like that. And the land disturbance permit has nothing to do with any of those things, and it sometimes creates confusion for residents and thinking they're coming and talking about what is being proposed for the site when in fact it's a by right use, and we're really just trying to get down to the nuts and bolts of the stormwater. We saw this happen with a couple of the cannabis dispensary developments where the use lives somewhere else. It lives with the select board under a licensing process, and we were just talking about the nuts and bolts, and even that was tough. And the land disturbance permit has an even narrower purview where it's really talking about adherence to stormwater standards under Mass DEP Stormwater Management Handbook. And again, if a development reaches the threshold where it comes to the planning board for site plan review, it's coming anyway, and stormwater is going to be a consideration. We're still going to have a peer review engineer looking at it, or for minor, the engineering division looks at it themselves for those 1 or 2 offs that are single family homes. But beyond that, not to belabor the point, this is really just to cut down on the administrative burden for folks who just, but for the topography of the land that they're trying to build a house or 2 on, triggers land disturbance.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
Just one. Now that we are going to be hopefully seeing more construction of ADUs, so for land disturbance, you just said it was 3 single-family or 2-family houses or less would only go to Conservation Commission. Would ADUs count as a structure in that regard?
It depends. So that's everyone's favorite answer, and it's the same answer with zoning all the time. It depends if it's a separate structure. So an ADU can be attached or detached. If it is detached and it is a standalone structure, it could, but it on its own would not trigger a full-blown stormwater review unless they had to disturb a lot of land to do it, which would be
unusual.
Very unusual, especially because they're only allowed to be a maximum of
Well, it
900
costs
square
an
feet.
awful lot to clear it all just to build something small, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that, I would just want ADU to be factored in that, if you were doing 3 houses each with a detached ADU.
Sure.
That's a lot different than 3 houses with an attached ADU or 2 houses with one of them having an ADU.
Yep, and that would, that specific condition would likely trigger a land disturbance permit, just because it's up to, it would be beyond the number of units that is considered under the Mass Stormwater Handbook would be one trigger, but the other, they would have to be disturbing a significant amount of land. I think by necessity, if it were 6 independent structures as you described, 500 cubic feet of disturbance or 20,000 square feet of, 500 cubic feet of displaced earth or 20,000 square feet of land disturbance. I don't see how you do those 6 structures without doing that. So yeah, it would likely be caught.
Clever people in Tewksbury, but I welcome them to try.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So then our guidance to Ms. Lauder would be to move forward in this?
Yep.
To endorse this?
Well, just to move forward with the...
Not necessarily. Yeah, this isn't a zoning bylaw change. This is just something that, because it was something that has been under your purview, I wanted to discuss it with you and see if there was any feedback before ultimately staff submits it for town meeting. The Conservation Commission has also been apprised of this, and they understand that it does fit under their purview.
Okay, yeah, so,
Great.
excellent.
Thank
So
you.
that moves us to correspondence, which I don't believe there was any correspondence. That leaves us to any other business not known at the time of the posting of the agenda. Does anybody have any such things?
Nothing here, Mr. Chairman.
I had a quick question.
Please.
There is a huge mound of dirt behind the houses on Cardigan. What is that for, and how long is it going to stay there?
So that was a part of some earthwork that was done by the property owner at 300 Ames Pond.
Okay.
And that is in the process of being moved off-site. They did hit some ledge when they were going through and excavating on that site, and ledge is difficult to move, both physically and, finding a home for it. So I spoke to the property owner probably a month or two ago about finding a home for that, and that's something that's in process.
Okay, because the residents have been asking, because they open their swimming pools and it's not covered or anything like that because it's too big. And it's just a complaint of theirs of the mess it makes.
I've been in touch with residents from that neighborhood as well. Yep.
Okay. Just curious.
Of course.
I thought I saw somewhere that our ethics, online ethics thing was due. I just finished mine. One of them was late. One of them was on time, but those are due if you guys haven't done them yet.
Yeah, you would have received notice from the town clerk about any updated trainings to make.
I think I did, yeah. So, all right, very good. With that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have a motion made. Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you on the 18th of August.